question for your show. What do you believe is the optimum duration of a pre-season, and roughly how much would you structure it for seniors at a good amateur level? We will have access to a basic gym, pitch, and a wrestle room. Tim, at the level that you're coaching at, quite often you will be under some kind of systemic pressure to start your pre-season sometime in November and December, I would assume, because that's what's happened since 1895. But your season might not still start till March and April, which means during the course of the year, you will have a fluctuation of attendances and effort levels. Okay. I actually think that what is enough for that kind of football, and it works so often at A-grade football in Australia as well, at that level, you need to have a solid 4 weeks. You need to have a solid 4 weeks that have high attendance, high effort levels, and high engagement from the players. Because your preseason program is only ever as good as the players that take part in it, or sometimes don't take part in it. Okay. So you need to aim for a solid 4 weeks. Now, that does not mean that you only plan 4 weeks training. What it does mean, though, is I think that you might repeat that 4 weeks a few times over a 12-week period, because like I said, there's a pressure in the rugby league ecosystem to turn up at your club November, December-ish. I don't know if it's the same in England still, but I certainly know it is in Australia, that even though the season might not start until the following April, players are in the habit of showing their face around about November, December. So clubs I talk to and the coaches, so many coaches now are thinking about their pre-season already, which is good. I talk to them about this all the time, and they are coming back to me and saying, I think we're going to start in mid-November or December. And it'll be a 4 or 6 or 8 week block before Christmas. And then, of course, you pick up again after January. Now, in Australia, you have summer holidays, so the return in January tends to be later January, whereas in England, we have a shorter Christmas break, okay? So I actually believe that you probably have to turn up and put something on and plan something. However, I think you basically need to roughly rotate a 4 week plan several times and aim to get your players together at some point within a 4 week period. And if in that 4 week period, let's say there's week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 in that 4 week period, and you rotate that constantly and make it look a little bit different each time, if your players start regularly turn up on the second or third cycle of week 3 and week 4, that means they will also hopefully turn up on that cycle, the next cycle of week 1 and week 2. So you've just done it in a sort of reverse order, if you like. Now, the other thing I truly believe is that the body starts to struggle and goes through an adaptation phase at around about 3 weeks. Okay, so what you need to do in your 4 weeks that you've got your players where they're all turning up, okay, is make it tough for 2 weeks, ease off. This I'm saying this in a very simple way, okay? It's a lot more complicated than this, but 2 weeks where you go quite tough on them, I suppose, and this is what I mentor coaches with all the time and help them with, so it's down to a T. But you crank it up for a couple of weeks, and then in the 3rd week, you just taper it off a little bit, which is a sort of deload week, and then you can increase it again after that, okay? Because what happens is if you push them too much in that 4th session, so the 2nd week, the 4th session, or if you push them too much in the 3rd week, they'll tend to vote with their feet and decide that they're too tired to come to training as well. So that's a little bit of a tip for you there. Now, you also mentioned basic gym, pitch, and wrestle room. You must default to the pitch all the time because that's where we play. However, in terms of the gym, give them access to the gym. They can follow programs in the gym that you set for them if you wish, but I wouldn't make them essential, particularly if the gym is only basic. Secondly, your gym and your wrestle room are useful for you when it inevitably rains and gets muddy in England or too frosty. Okay. So always default to the pitch. Always, always, always. And what the gym and the wrestle room can do for you is if you're doing a long preseason, because the subculture of rugby league means you have to get there in November and December and train until Marchish in your preseason mode. The gym and the wrestle room give you variety. So on each of those 4 week cycles, you'll be going into the gym and wrestle room at different times, even if, based on the weather patterns as well. Okay, so that I hope helps you there, Tim.